this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this stylish on the bust conical corset dress. And this dress is from Stitches by AC on Instagram. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, I'll start by marking out my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist and blouse length. So the next step I'll take is to mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. So after marking this, I'll come down by 1 inch, which I'll use in drawing out my shoulder slant. Next, I'll mark my neckline. So I'll be using 2.8 inches because I'm making a turtleneck pattern and I don't want it to be too choky or too free either. So after I'm done marking this, I'll find my chest line. To find your chest line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead to mark. So whatever I have here, from that point to my bust, I'll transfer it here. Now I'll also go ahead to mark it at this point, place my ruler, and I'll draw out a straight line. So after I'm done drawing out this straight line, I'll make sure what I have on the shoulder, which is my shoulder divided by 2 plus half, is what I have also on the chest line. This is because I'm attaching a sleeve to the dress. I'll place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line and reconnect my shoulder. Next, I'll divide what I have here into 2. Dividing my armhole into 2, I'll come out by ½ inch. On the chest line, I will mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now, I'll place my ruler, connect from there my bust circumference divided by 4 to the half, and I'll extend this all the way up. Now, I'll go in with my marker and I'm going to go ahead to outline this. The next step is to mark your dart. And to mark your dart, you're going to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, which I'm going to go ahead to extend this all the way, going up to the upper part of my pattern, and I'll connect. I'll extend my pattern all the way to my chest line, that is my nipple to nipple point. From that point, I'll mark out a basic neckline for this part, which is about 2.5 inches. That is what I'll be using for the turtle neckline. And I'll go ahead to connect it all the way up. After I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to divide my shoulder into 2. Now, while cutting this pattern, you should also know that this pattern comes in 2 ways for the upper part. There's a part that has a bustier and a normal pattern. Now, you'll be fitting your bustier under the normal pattern. So here, I'll start by taking my dart intake of 1 inch. Now, you're also going to mark 1.5 inches. Let's say you're busty or you're on the bigger size. Now, I'll go ahead to connect this all the way down. And after I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead also to connect from the under bust to the waist and to the blouse length. So I forgot also to mention that from the waist to my blouse length is about 5 inches. So after this, I came down by 1 inch from the bust and I will connect. Just like your basic pattern, that is your basic dart, but in this pattern we are using 1 inch. This is because the under part of the dress, which is the waist, the blouse length, and the under bust is more like a corset, so you're also going to contour that. Although you can still go ahead to use your basic ½ inch, but it might not give you the contouring that you need for this pattern. So I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. Then I'll go ahead to mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. My under bust circumference is 24 divided by 4. I marked 7. Now I'll replace the dart intake and add my sewing allowance. Now at the waist, I want to snatch out my waist directly. My waist is 28 minus 4. I have 24. So I will divide that 24 by 4, which I marked, measured the dart intake, replaced, and I'll add my sewing allowance of ½ inch. So here I went ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4. Now the 2 inches dart intake, I will replace it, and then for the conical effect, you can add at least 1 inch to this pattern. You don't really need much because the effect on the hip side is almost fitted on the pattern actually. So you can use that, or you can actually use your actual hip measurement. Now I'll go ahead to mark my bust to my under bust. From my waist, I'm I'm going to connect this all the way down to the lower part of my pattern. Now I'm going to go ahead to use my free hand to connect, and then go ahead to use my pattern again to readjust it to what I want. So after I'm done connecting this on this side, the next step I'll take is now to go ahead to alter my pattern. So I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern before we continue altering this pattern. So after that, I'll go ahead to outline my under bust. Now you're also going to sew out your dart at the under bust just like you have at the thumbnail, but you have to cut the under bust from the rest of the pattern. Now I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this, and we'll continue with the pattern. Now, to work on the rest of the pattern, I have to blend in my dart to draw out the hemline area. Now, I'll come down by 1.5 inches and I'll start connecting. So from the midpoint of this side, I'll come in by 3 inches, which is not a standard. Go in by whatever that suits you. Then I'll come up by at least 1 inch, and I'll go ahead to connect this, then connect it all the way down. So you can decide to end at where your pattern ends, or add like extra ½ inch to the end of your pattern. Now you see me adjusting the dart legs so that it will match up the new hemline that we have. Now I'll place my ruler and draw out a straight line. Now this line is serving as a style line, which I'll use to demarcate my patterns. This is because we have already snatched our waistline, to avoid using a dart to snatch our waist. So all I'll do is to add a style line. Next, I'll add my bust dart. So how do you get your bust dart? Is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17 and my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. So if you take out 15.5 from 17, you have 1.5, which I went ahead to mark. So after I'm done marking this right, I'm going to go ahead. So after this, we'll have to cut out the under bust area from the lower part, because we're going to go ahead to also draft out like a bustier pattern for it. Now at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comments at the comment section. So now I'll go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. If you have any question, please kindly leave it at the comment section. Now I'll go ahead to cut this out. After cutting this out, I'm going to place this on another paper, and I'm going to go ahead to trace this out. So we are trying to cut out the under bust area of this pattern. So to avoid stressing or going ahead to draft out a new pattern, I had to place this pattern on another pattern paper, and I'm going to trace out. So now I'm leaving an extra inch at the side because the initial pattern that we drafted out does not have a contouring at the bust, which we'll be using for the main pattern, which has the chantilly lace. Now mark where your bust measurement is, your shoulder to bust is, to avoid remeasuring your pattern, or you can go ahead to do that. I'll place a ruler and draw out a straight line there. Now I'll go in and mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 again, and I'll draw out a straight line. Now I'll place my ruler and outline my chest line. After I'm done doing this, I'll go up by the measurement, or where you want your bustier to stop. So I went up by 1.5 inches. So for a busty person, you can use 2 inches or 2.5. Or if you're not sure of your measurement, please place your tape at the shoulder and mark where you want your bustier to stop underneath your dress. Now I marked out a line there, and I'll extend my nipple to nipple. So I'll go ahead to take my dart intake of 1 inch on both sides. Now if you're busty, please go ahead to use 1.5, or you're a bit busty, use 1.5. Now I'll connect from my bust to my under bust. After I'm done connecting that, I'm going to go ahead to also mark my dart for the upper part, which is the contouring of the over bust. Now I'll also go ahead to use 1 inch. You can use 1.5 inches on both sides if you're a bit busty, or use 1 inch at the center, or 2 inches by the side, let's say for someone that is busty. Now after I'm done outlining this, you'll now go ahead to mark out your neckline, whether you want a roundish neckline, a sweetheart neckline. So I'll go ahead to blend in. After I'm done blending in, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, replace the dot and add my sewing allowance. Now, if you don't want to have too much excess by the side because you place this underneath your main pattern, you can just measure the dot that is at the chest line. Now, at the under bust, go ahead to mark your under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add your sewing allowance. After you're done doing that, I'll just go ahead to use my scissors to reconnect and cut out my pattern. Now, you also want to replace your bust dart because you're blending the part on the chantilly lace out. You also want to blend out the bustier area out. Now, I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to shed this out. Now you will be blending this out and you cut it out on your pattern paper. So this is the bustier part underneath your dress, and I'll go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. So after cutting this out, this will be the part underneath and this is the conical part of the corset. Now we're moving over to the back pattern, which I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to waistline at the back, and I added extra 5 inches for my blouse length also. Now I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. Now I will take this all the way from the upper part of my pattern to the lower part of my pattern, which I will go ahead to draw out a straight line. So after I'm done marking this, the next step I'm going to take is to mark my dart intake. Now for the dart intake, I'll be marking 1/2 inch on both sides. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to extend it all the way down. I want to have a straight dart, which will be easier for me to sew or work with. Now I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll place my ruler and extend it all the way up, and also extend it at the other side of my pattern also. The next step is to insert your measurement. I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. For the bust area, my bust is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3 inches and I'll add my sewing allowance. Remember, we snatched our waist at the front, so that measurement we used in snatching our waist, that is your new waistline. And I'll go ahead to replace my dart intake and add my sewing allowance. The lower part, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add. Then I'll measure the dart intake, replace, add my sewing allowance. Let's say I'm using 1 inch plus 1 inch for the conical effect, which will give me 2 inches. Then I'll go ahead to connect. So for this pattern, you don't need much sewing allowance. 1/2 inch or 1 inch is okay. Now I'll go ahead to connect from the waist also to the lower part. After connecting this, I'm going to bring my pattern and I will be placing it on it. That is the front pattern, because you want to have the same effect by the front and also at the back. You don't want to have a different shape altogether. Now after I'm done marking this, I did not get to see the back, but I'm just going to go up a bit at this side, then I'll go ahead to connect. So also for this pattern, you can place your tape from the shoulder to the under bust. Let's say my shoulder to under bust is 12 and mark. This is if you want to give it that under bust effect also at the back. Now you cut out the under bust area differently from what you have at the waistline of your pattern, or you can cut it as your normal corset pattern. So let's go ahead and mark our neckline of 2.8 inches by 1.5. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark out the lacing area. So for my lacing area, I'm using 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 inches is not a constant. It totally depends on what you want. You can use 2 inches. So after this, I'm going to go ahead to place your ruler and I'm going to connect. So after I'm done connecting, this is what I have and I'll mark this out. So I'm just going to come down here by 1 inch or 1.5 and connect. Now I'll go up by 0.3, slant it and connect, come down by 0.5 and connect. This is to take out gaping from the upper part of your pattern. Now you can cut your pattern this way That is, you can cut it this way by having an under bust area and then the upper part just like we have at the front. Or if you don't want to cut it out, that is the under bust separate, starting from the under bust to the waist and to the lower part, you can just cut it as you're cutting your normal corset back pattern. So I'll just be explaining that, or I'll be cutting it out as a normal corset back pattern to also explain or show you what I mean. So in our front pattern, we cut out the under bust area. So if you don't want to cut out the under bust area just like we did at the front, you can just cut out the back as a basic corset pattern this way. So see you in our next video. Thanks.